Right now, I'm doing something that has never, ever been done before. No, not looking cool while riding a scooter, but thank you for saying that. No, what I'm doing is riding a privately owned electric scooter on the road in the UK legally. This is the SwiftyGo GT500, and it is the first legal electric scooter that you can buy for yourself here in the UK. And the reason it's legal is because in the eyes of the law, it's not a scooter at all. It's a little teeny motorbike. Allow me to explain.
Like everything electric? Then you'll love our fun-packed Everything Electric expos around the world. Come join us in Harrogate, Farnborough and Vancouver. Remember, energy and transport professionals go free.
Now, the first thing you need to know about this scooter is that the company that makes it has a bit of skin in the scooter game. You see, for the last 10 years, Swifty have been making these ultra high-end kick scooters for adults and kids. They're by no means cheap, starting at around 600 quid, but it is truly the Rolls-Royce of scooters. In terms of build quality and ride, they're a class above everything else that you'd even call a scooter. And clearly there's a market for these things because they've sold over 8,000 of them globally. And then e-scooters became popular in recent years, and Swifty decided to move with the times, and after a couple of years of trial and error, this is what they've arrived at. They call it the SwiftyGo. Now this is important, there are two different models. You've got the G500, which tops out at 15.5 miles per hour. That currently, like all other e-scooters, is totally illegal to ride in the UK, but what they've done is preempt future legislation. If when the government decides to get off their arse and legalise e-scooters, that model is designed to sail through any safety restrictions they place on road-going e-scooters. But what if you just can't wait for the government to get off their arse? What if you want an e-scooter that's legal today? And what if you want to go more than 15 miles per hour? Well, that's where this puppy comes in, the GT500. Now, the only difference mechanically between this GT500 and the G500 is speed. This one is faster. It does 28 miles per hour. So why is this road legal where the G500 isn't? Well, the answer is because this one has been registered with the DVSA as an electric moped. It's an L1E electric stand-up moped to give it its proper legal categorization. What does that mean? Well, it means I have to have a little tooty horn, and indicators and a headlight, number plate, insurance, all that jazz. It also means that as a rider, I'm required to have a CBT, that's your moped license, and of course, wear a proper helmet. Now, depending on how much of a legend you are, you're either thinking to yourself, what, motorcycle helmet on a scooter? That's excessive. Or 28 miles per hour on a scooter? That's insane. But actually, from where I'm stood, it all feels about right. 28 is quick. If you go over the handlebars at that speed, you're going to be glad you're wearing a proper helmet. But equally, this thing is so unbelievably stable and confidence inspiring to ride. It doesn't even feel like any other scooter I've ever ridden. Frustratingly, this prototype doesn't do the top speed of 28. It's a little bit slower than that. But frankly, it feels like it could do 40 and still inspire confidence in the ride. It's buttery. Now, the secret to the SwiftyGo's ultra stable, squashy ride is, well, it's not a secret at all, actually. It comes from exactly the places you'd expect, like these big 16-inch wheels that are wrapped in squashy pneumatic tyres, like this full suspension. Look at this on an electric scooter. You've got front and rear shocks, 30mm of travel in the back. They're even adjustable for ride height and damping. So if you're a heavier rider, you can adjust your suspension accordingly so that you don't ground out. In addition to that, some less obvious things that make it really, really smooth to ride. This really wide deck that allows you to really kind of plant your feet, not in line with one another, but just a little bit separated, makes you feel so much more stable. Even means you can sort of lean with your feet while you're riding. And also just look at the rake of this steering column. A lot of e-scooters will have your hands positioned right on top of a really small front wheel, but that little bit of rake, that little bit of angle, having the front wheel just slightly in front of your hands makes steering feel so much more stable. And that emphasis on safety extends to the battery pack, because underneath this deck we have an LFP battery. That is a first for an electric scooter, and it's good news as far as battery longevity. LFP batteries, as we know, you can charge them lots and lots and lots of times quickly without them degrading very much, but it's also a good news as far as not catching fire. LFP batteries, much less risky in that regard, which means if you go over a nasty speed bump and ding the underside, or ride through an especially large puddle, you don't have to lie awake at night wondering if your scooter is going to burn your house down that evening. Battery fires are very, very rare occurrences when it comes to electric cars, but when it comes to micromobility, and that battery is less well protected and much nearer the ground, they're slightly less rare. I say this as someone who has had an electric skateboard spectacularly burst into flames. The LFP is a welcome addition. And I'll just quickly take you through some of the switchgear, because it's a bit weird seeing all this kind of motorcycle style equipment on what is essentially an electric scooter. So we've got our indicators here, left and right. We've got our main beams just there. We've got a decently loud horn. People will know that you're there. With that, we've got our hazard switch. This is all quite strange to see on a scooter. We've got a nice little screen here, which just shows us what mode we're in, how much range we've got left, what speed we're doing. We've got a useful wing mirror. You've got to have one of those. That's a legal requirement. And of course, the number plate on the back. Personally, I have no issue with a scooter that can go this fast having to be road registered. I actually think Swifty have really nailed what the future should look like with these two models. 50 miles an hour or less, have at it. That's bicycle speed. You shouldn't need paperwork for one of those. I think it should be 20, but that's just me. Anything quicker than that, and you should absolutely need a CBT and insurance and a number plate, because that's a speedy vehicle. So as far as I'm concerned, it's spot on. Those two models represent what the future of legal e-scooters should look like. Are you watching, Rishi? We've done all the hard work for you. You can have it. And the final thing worth mentioning here, storage. Decent amount of it on this electric scooter. We've got this laptop bag that clips onto the front. This benefits from the front suspension, so you put your valuables in there. They're not going to get shaken up a bit. And if you need more, well, here's two more. You can just clip onto the back, like so. Dead easy. That's an extra 15 litres each. It's basically an estate car. Now, let's talk price, because as you may suspect, this is not the cheapest scooter going. The G500 is going to start from £2,500, this GT500, £3,500. And bearing in mind that you can pick up a brand new 125cc petrol moped for £2,000 easy, why would you consider one of these? Well, number one, it's electric, which means extremely cheap charging, no trips to the petrol station, and also it doesn't go wah. Number two, portability. You can't ride a moped into your hallway once you're done zooming around on it. This you can. And the thing about mopeds is, in cities, they do get stolen. Number three, you could argue that this is a little bit safer than a moped. Because I'm stood up, I've got a much better sight line. I can see further, and I'm easier to see for other road users. That's not to be understated. But the main reason you'd consider one of these is because it is simply a joy to ride around a city. I have crossed cities on just about every kind of vehicle imaginable. Cars and microcars, motorbikes and e-bikes, electric skateboards and electric unicycles, you name it, I've ridden it. And this might just be the perfect amount of vehicle for getting across a city. Anything more would feel bulky, oversized and overpowered. Anything less would feel a little bit wibbly wobbly and scary on the road with bigger cars. But this, like a Land Rover on a muddy hillside or a big German limousine zooming along an autobahn, it just feels like exactly the right tool for the job. I'm not going to suggest we should all go out and buy one of these tomorrow. £3,500 is a lot of money. Not all of us have that lying around. But as far as Swifty are concerned, you shouldn't think about this as a new toy to add to your collection. You should think about it as a potential replacement for your car. And when you put it into those terms, it starts to make a little bit more sense.